All right, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Before the Four. Of course, the live stream where I go through some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 o'clock newscast. Wherever you're watching Before the Four this fine Wednesday afternoon, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream. As always, thank you so much for watching and spending just a bit of your afternoon here. Now let's jump into some of the day's top stories, and let's begin in Lauderdale County, where a former Killen police officer who pled guilty to federal civil rights violations and child sex crimes was sentenced today. Webster also confessed to sending sexually explicit images of himself to a minor between 2016 and 2018. Now, back in March, he pled guilty to 1 count of deprivation of rights under color of law and 1 count of sexual exploitation of children. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison with supervised release for the rest of his life. We'll have more on this situation coming up in our evening newscast, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But now let's turn over to the weather. We now have confirmation that an EF0 tornado touched down on Redstone Arsenal last night. NWS officials say winds were up to 83 miles per hour and traveled a total of 0.12 miles. 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis with what to expect for the rest of the week. Brad?
As we continue on into the rest of the week, we still have chances for showers, a few thunderstorms, mainly early tomorrow morning. And we've had some isolated stuff today, but definitely a different appearance to the sky today as well. This is more what we're used to this time of year. And we're going to still see a few showers and storms, mainly isolated in northeast Alabama. Take a look at the radar. You see nothing really coming at us. This disturbance here in East Texas and Louisiana, that's what's going to be arriving tomorrow morning. So we do expect overnight tonight to see a chance of rain developing around 3 or 4 in the morning. And then I think the morning commute, especially out in the shoals and areas west of I-65, should be a wet one. But the appearance of the guidance here doesn't really suggest severe weather for us. A few thunderstorms. Maybe as you get towards Boaz and Fort Payne, we could see some stronger storms there as this finally lifts off to the northeast. But still another chance of rain Thursday night into Friday morning, and that should be it for this weather pattern we have been stuck in for nearly a week, in fact almost a month. And overall rainfall chances come back Sunday, and that's real questionable right now because model guidance has been flipping back and forth with a potential complex of storms coming in Sunday. But as we kind of turn our focus to the first week of June, looks pretty good, although a cold front's coming in Thursday. That disturbance could bring a round of stronger storms. We'll keep you up to date and have the latest forecast at 4, 5, and 6.
And you all just saw it, the 48 First Alert Weather Extra that, of course, is going on tonight at 9:30. It'll be back here in the CTV Center, and you can watch it wherever you're watching Before the Four right now. But stay tuned. Brad Travis will have all the latest that he's seeing on the radar. But now, moving out to Decatur, where the election for City Council is now just a few months away. And it appears that the 2023 shooting death of Steve Perkins is making an impact on who's running for seats in the City Council. 48's Callie Neese with more.
Both Nick Perkins and Terrence Adkins are running for the District 1 spot of Decatur City Council. Both say they're looking for change in the community. Terrence Adkins is the co-founder of Standing in Power, an advocacy group here in Decatur that are supporters of Steve Perkins. He has had a very vocal presence at city council meetings after the police shooting death of Steve Perkins. He was banned from City Hall earlier this month after chaos broke out at a city council work session. He told me he doesn't believe that will affect his race.
The reason why I'm banned, I'm banned because I'm standing up for what's right. And so that's what we need in this community, someone who will take it all the way for what's right.
Nick Perkins is Steve Perkins' brother. He says that leadership in the city has had a downward spiral and change is needed.
Decatur as a whole needs to change all the way around. So I don't think we can hold anything back at this point. So unity is our number one priority. It will be our number one priority, and that's what we shoot for.
Both men say they believe they are the man for the job.
I think the citizens as a whole, not just in District 1, but as citizens in Decatur, holistically, want a real change. So that they will vote for positivity, and they will see that in myself. I know that.
Sure, we need just basic overall change in District 1, and I feel like that I can make that change.
Both men are running for Billy Jackson's spot on the council. He announced that he will be running for mayor. The election will take place on August 26th. Reporting in Decatur, Callie Neese, 48 News, on your side.
And today, Callie spoke with Decatur Interim Police Chief Natus Carlisle, who's wrapping up his last few days in the role before Tory Mack takes the helm. Callie will have more from that conversation with Chief Carlisle coming up in our evening newscast. But now in Scottsboro, with the story in case you missed it, we now have a new photo of a man with dementia who's been missing for a few weeks now. 48 Savannah Sapp with those details.
Family of James Anthony Jenkins, more commonly known as Toby, has been searching alongside police for 2 weeks now. The Scottsboro Police Department now releasing new images of Toby that were taken just hours before he was reported missing. This is the newly released image of Toby Jenkins from the Scottsboro Police Department at around 6:30 p.m. on May 13th. Now, Public Information Officer Cody Durham tells me this was taken just 2 blocks from Jenkins' home. Jenkins' daughter-in-law tells me he has been diagnosed with dementia. She says he had been visiting with neighbors that evening, and those neighbors called Jenkins' son to come pick him up, but before he could get there, Jenkins had already walked away from the home. Jenkins' family tell me they believe someone may have picked him up, but police say there's no evidence to suggest that at this time. Durham tells me officers put boots on the ground whenever they receive a tip about Jenkins' whereabouts. And police are asking anyone with information on Mr. Jenkins, his whereabouts, or any alleged sightings of him to contact the police department. In Scottsboro, Savannah Sapp, 48 News, on your side.
And now coming up after the break, we'll go through a new church building opening in the Tennessee Valley and an interesting, unique class on blacksmithing in Huntsville tomorrow. It's all ahead. I'll be right back in 1 minute. All right, well, hello and welcome back to Before the Four. Now in Hartselle, where a brand new Baptist church building is now open in the community, 48 Sarah Grace Kennedy gives us details on that highly anticipated new building. Let's take a look.
Jerry Chenault, the pastor of Oak Ridge Baptist Church in Hartselle, tells me the idea of building a new church seemed like a pipe dream.
I met with several different contracting companies, and they all told me basically the same thing. You don't have nearly enough money in today's economy to build a building.
For 20 years, the church prayed for the money to build a new church on a piece of land they acquired. Members of the church even put up a sign on the property that reads, "Future Home of Oak Ridge Baptist Church."
A couple years ago, I asked the church, how about if we take that sign down? Because it's embarrassing. I mean, it was falling, it was faded, it was molded, it had weeds growing all up around it.
However, the church decided to go against taking the sign down. Instead, they refurbished it and kept believing and praying that God would bless them with a church. Chenault says that not much has changed regarding their financial situation, but God blessed them with a builder that could meet their budget. The contractor for the new church, Calvin Callahan, actually has a personal history with the church. His father was a priest at Oak Ridge Baptist Church many years ago.
Kelvin said, we're going to make this happen. And he's just willing to help us and bend over backwards to help us to make this happen. I believe that's a godsend.
Chenault says it almost feels surreal that they are blessed with a new church after so many years.
Keep telling myself that it's real, that it's happening, because for so long it did not, and it seems often in my mind I keep thinking, are we ever going to get that building? But it's happening, and I just have to keep telling myself it is happening. I can see the construction vehicles parked on the land there, and the pad has already been started.
Very nice news indeed. And now check this out. If you've ever wanted to try out the art of forging or blacksmithing, tomorrow night is your night. The Shop Huntsville is putting on a basic blacksmithing course where participants will learn the basics of forging metal, and they even get to leave with their own creation. Cannot beat that. Again, this is at the Shop Huntsville starting at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. Yesterday, I spoke with Dewey Mason and Phil Kern all about tomorrow's event, and they even put the practice to the test by bringing in their own gas forge and showing me how it's done. Let's take a look.
With the blacksmithing, you learn that steel is basically like Play-Doh, just much more vigorous or much more viscous. And you can shape it however you want. And so that's something that you can't really do so much with the modern fabrication equipment. Fabrication, you got a lot of straight lines and sharp corners, and you're down to the 10,000ths a lot of times, whereas with blacksmithing, it's very fluid, it's very intuitive, and it's much more art and much less science. Not to say there's not a lot of science to it. There's a lot of things you have to know, but in the execution, it's much more of a free-flowing art form than it is, building to rigorous specs.
Right. Very cool. And you mentioned the science. What all can attendees expect to learn at this Thursday's event?
Well, first, you're not going to be a qualified journeyman blacksmith or anything after a couple of hours.
Oh,
but
dang it.
Well, here's the thing, and just like when I teach the welding classes, my biggest thing I want them to leave with is enough confidence to keep learning and enough knowledge of how to continue to do that without hurting themselves.
Right.
You'll be able to make some basic things. In a couple of hours, I can teach you enough techniques with blacksmithing that you can go and purchase some inexpensive equipment, either used or out of the cheap tool market. We've put several people through college at Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight you.
Oh yeah, but what is it? Canadian Tool and Tire with the Grizzly brand, and several of those. That you can order a lot of stuff off of off the internet and Amazon, that sort of thing. And it doesn't have to be super expensive, and that's one of the things I want people to realize. And while it's an art form that you can spend the rest of your life trying to master and still have a lot left when you die, you can learn the basics in a few hours, and from there a little bit of practice and practical experience and application, and you'll start being able to make some things that you want to be able to make. So that's really what they're going to learn, is how to sit down and start a project, what tools and things they need as far as the equipment, how to use it without hurting themselves, and how to make a few basic things that they can learn on to continue moving forward.
Right. And take home.
Yeah.
That's right. I
Everybody
understand.
always leaves with a project.
Right. Awesome interview yesterday, and you can watch that full 48 Now interview right now on our own website and YouTube channel. Just go to the 48 Now section, and also come on out to the basic blacksmithing course at the shop tomorrow night. You're just not going to want to miss it. And speaking of things you're just not going to want to miss, let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. Following up on the Guntersville Chamber of Commerce building after a car rammed into the building last week, 48 Savannah Sap will have that story coming up. Details on the Alabama Music Hall of Fame regarding their unauthorized spending audit. 48's Faith Delp will have more details on that situation. And finally, details on a fire that broke out at an old school building in Leeton. 48's Aria Pons is on that this afternoon, and these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. And it is 3:54. Y'all, it is that time. Of course, it is time for Facebook Fun, our 48 Facebook question of the day. What is a song from your childhood that you still remember every word? And let's see what you all here across the Tennessee Valley had to say. What are some songs from your childhood that you still remember every word? And let's send it. Paul Carter said any song by Pink Floyd, 100%. So many bangers, Comfortably Numb. Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, such bangers. You Are My Sunshine, Tina, Me and You Both. That is one of my first songs I learned, I believe. Very good song there. I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. Brian Grady had that comment, another classic. Speaking of classics, we have Don McLean's American Pie. Denise Bishop, very great song there. We have More Than a Feeling by Boston from Deborah McBride, another really good song. And let's see, Jack and Diane, and of course that is John Mellencamp's Jack and Diane, another really, really great song. Great choice, Chris Fowler. And let's see, we have time for a couple others. So let's just go through some of these comments. Let's see, one that I think I remember every word to from my childhood. The first one that actually came to mind is I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack. Very great song there. I believe my mother actually put the lyrics to that song on my scrapbook when I was still a baby. I believe the year 2000, the year I was born. Now this one right here, a comment from April Wheeler. Let me send this one to the queue. Let's see, bear with me 1 second. This is one right here, the ABC song, of course, from April. That's a hard one to remember every word to, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I am only kidding, but another great song. You all had some super awesome comments today. I love music. If you know anything about me, music is one of my favorite parts of being on the planet. It's one of my favorite things. And you all had really good comments here. You remember the words to all of these songs. And yes, I mean, they're all classic songs. How can you not? But thank you all for commenting on today's 48 Facebook question of the day. That is just about all the time I have for today's Before the Four. But of course, enjoy tonight's evening newscast. Enjoy Weather Extra tonight at 9:30 from our own First Alert Chief Meteorologist, Brad Travis. And of course, have a great night. Thank you all for watching. And like I just said, have a great night.